Hello, everyone. My name is Donnell Baker. I'm a Senior Director, Chief of Staff and Business Operations at SAP Concur, which is an SAP Cloud Business Group company. And I specifically work in our Cloud Services department. I wanted to first tell you about how I've gone on my journey to this role. I think not many people know what a Chief of Staff or Business Operations position is, and what I'd say is in the industry, it can actually vary. Even within our own company, it can vary the job responsibility and role. But to see where I got or how I got here, I've worked at two companies. I started my career at Microsoft after graduating with a computer science degree from Gonzaga University. I worked there for about 8 years, and then I transitioned to SAP Concur. At the time, it was Concur, and then later acquired by SAP. I started as a technical software development engineer and test, so tester or QA in the industry now. I went from SDET 1, 2, and 3, moved into a leadership position, had a team. I had always known for a long time that I wanted to be a people manager, so I quickly went into that role, always seeking out opportunities to lead people. When I moved to Concur, I moved into a manager role within our QE organization with the task to move us from manual testing to automated testing. So I got to leverage a lot of what I learned at Microsoft as an SDET here at Concur. About two and a half years of doing a QE role, leading our primary QE organization. I was asked to build up the site reliability engineering team at Concur from scratch. I spent about a year and a half doing that, and then was asked to take on a chief of staff role at the director level for our then at that time VP of cloud services. And I'll talk about chief of staff and why that was important at that time in a little bit. And then finally, I moved into a combo role of chief of staff business operations, which is my current role. So what I currently do, there are two parts to this. I've done the chief of staff position for now almost 2 years, and I'll talk about what each of these mean in more detail. And then I also added on the business operations side of it. There's two distinctions, but I'm going to deep dive quickly on these. So chief of staff is what's also called a shadow advisor. You may have seen this in the news recently. Jeff Bezos renamed, I think it was in November, a new shadow advisor, technical advisor, Wei Gao, which is a fantastic and great opportunity for many people in an organization. Many of the shadow advisors or chief of staffs don't come from within that particular person's organization. They can come from many different roles: marketing, sales, technology. In my case, I came from a technology background, and I am working in a technology space, but that's not always the case. So a little bit about what a shadow advisor does. If you look online, there's not a ton out there to tell you what these roles do. But at a very, very high level, a shadow advisor really is an extension of their executive. So if you imagine, and I look ridiculous right now, but if you imagine me reaching my arm out as an executive, I have a certain amount of reach. And what you can imagine is what a chief of staff or shadow advisor does is extends that person's reach by a full other person's length. So in that previous diagram, I kind of like this picture, that sphere of influence, that middle sphere of what one person can achieve is now doubled or even tripled because they have so much more representation and ability to get information via their chief of staff or their shadow advisor. So the sphere of influence is really important. A big part of what we do is being a sounding board to our executives, but we also have a huge part in the strategy development and alignment across the organization. One of the big things that I like to tell people, even though I haven't written code in about probably 10 years, I'm probably more technical than I've ever been. I helped develop the strategy for not only cloud services, but our overall technology group. I helped drive transformations, things like Shaw mentioned that waterfall versus agile. We did that transformation here at SAP Concur. We do transformations like our manual testing to automated testing as an organization, things like onboarding into cloud providers, in our example, AWS, or even things like industry movements like moving into a DevOps model and helping that transformation, and all the technology that goes behind it to support and enable it. We actually call ourselves the enablement organization, and that strategy is a big part of what I do. The other part that's a huge thing that we work on specific to our team is leadership team development. So many organizations have varying levels of where their leadership team is. Our leadership team has kind of been piecemealed together over time and really bringing us together as a first team. It's a concept in a book, 5 Dysfunctions of a Team. Our first team development has needed a lot of focus. And so I spend a good amount of my time doing leadership team development. And then lastly, helping our executive and our team really build those mission, vision, values, and goals. So that's the chief of staff side of what I do. And then probably mid-year last year, we started building in the business operations side for our organization. Many companies or larger organizations have a business operations role. Again, it varies by company. For us, these are the 5 areas that we focus on. The strategy alignment across teams. I would say this is an extension of that chief of staff role, where we leverage things like communications, data analytics, and really build that into the strategy. Operational efficiencies, where we as a team can operate better, things as straightforward as rhythm of business of meetings, templates for PowerPoints, how we communicate, when we communicate, all of that falls into the operational efficiencies. Higher level of transparency. Again, many organizations are at varying levels. Some very technical people are not always the best at communication. And so this is where we've focused a lot of our time. We have a communications manager here to very specifically help, where we're providing a very high level of transparency into where we are as an organization, our goals, where we are at on those goals, and then really helping the team feel like a community. We do drive analytical discipline. I love Shaw's intro into the business analytics. Very important into what we do as well from a business operations perspective. We're always trying to have a data first mindset. So anywhere we can, we are bringing in data to help inform strategy, improve alignment, and we're really using that across the board. However, in our space, we are very specifically focused on finance operations and where we can bring in data into finance to make our team successful. And then that last piece that we're currently focusing on is our people initiatives. And this is where we really help build the organization as a whole. Things specific like diversity and inclusion, hiring, training, team alignment, even team morale, all can fall under here. It changes by year. I'd say even in the almost 6 years I've been here, the focus of where we need to make investments in our people change on a daily basis. And we do try to shift with that and be very flexible. But this is really where I would say there's a big amount of focus for the team. Just as a note, when I say team, cloud services at SAP Concur about 350 people worldwide. We support our services 24/7, meaning SAP Concur's product 24/7, while also building the products and deliverables for our development teams to be able to build, deploy, and run their code. Okay, so what are keys to success? Or I also just finished reading a book, Girl Wash Your Face, highly recommend it. She says, what are my tips? So on my keys to success, and what I would recommend for anybody looking at these roles, or really any role change, leverage and build on your prior knowledge. In my case, when I switched from a test role, SRE, chief of staff, I really had no visibility into other people doing those roles. They're newer to the industry. And so I had to leverage a lot of what I learned in my prior roles, what made me successful, what made our team successful, what made our leaders successful, to help build in and support me from the ground up, right? Being able to leverage those things while learning that next skill set. And just even their next bullet point, learn something new. I really dove deep into those topic areas right as soon as I started the role. In SRE, for example, I attended a ton of conferences, SRE Con, DevOps days, many conferences in that space. Even chief of staff, there are communities that you can get involved in business operations as well. So diving in deep to learn the new role and skill set was really important so that I could pivot quickly into a new role that I didn't know much about. I've highly utilized my network. This is one of my very favorite topics, is how to build and utilize a network of people. I speak about it quite often. I highly recommend having a network that you can leverage, bounce ideas off. It's almost my own version of shadow advisors for myself. I use them as my sounding board, how to make sure that I'm following or leading in the right direction, and really taking those things to the next step. Often I take time to step back and look at the big picture. I think it's really easy to dive in deep on solutioning, but sometimes taking that step back to look at a big picture can really help you come to that final solution, and be part of the solution. I think one of the things we struggle with most is a lot of talk, and not a lot of action. People like to kind of talk about a problem, they like to solution, and then sometimes not follow through in actually being part of that solution. And so a lot of times what I recommend to our leaders and our people within the team is following that all the way through. Being truthful has been a huge asset to me over my career. There's a great talk called Tactful versus Truthful. This is the two main approaches that leaders can have, people leaders or thought leaders. Some people take the sales pitch path, try to get buy-in by selling you on an idea. And then some people take the truthful path, being very straightforward, can sometimes feel a little brutally honest. I have found it to be very successful for me to be on that truthful path, where people really understand what's behind the concept and why you're trying to do it, rather than being sold on that idea. I do take quite a bit of time to listen. I fight for my beliefs very often. My mom likes to say I should have been a lawyer because I like to fight for my beliefs all the time. I don't know that being a lawyer would have benefited me in the end. I'm kind of glad where I'm at, but I do fight for my beliefs. And then I earn that buy-in, and again, utilizing that being truthful to do that. And then I threw in a quote there. It's kind of around that solution and problem. I abide by this very, very strongly. Leaders think and talk about the solution. Followers think and talk about the problem. This is a mantra I live by every day. Every time somebody comes to talk to me, is really helping them try to work towards a solution rather than focusing so much on a problem. If you or anybody you know is interested in either chief of staff or business operations, how it could work at a company, how you can get into those types of roles, feel free to reach out to me.
Great. I think the last slide were very, very valuable for us to all see that. So thank you again, ladies, so much for taking your time out of the day to talk to us and share your experience and some of your key takeaways in your job. And yes, we really appreciate it. Have a great day.
Thank you.
Thank you so much. Take care.